Welcome back, Planet Coaster Adventurers, and here we are again at our new park in episode 5. Now that we just completed the fairy tale area, we went over there from this western area to complete that, and we're coming back to this area now to try and finish it off, or certainly finish off the scenery which we want to do. Now then, this is our super big roller coaster ride, and as we've said before, I don't think we can theme the whole lot. I think it's just too much to want to theme the whole lot. But we do want a nice little entrance area kind of before you lift off really fast into the canyon, and we'll probably have a little bit of theming around the actual ride as well, but not too much, just sort of spot themings as you go. A lot of this will be just outdoor terrain racing coaster, and yeah, actually I think it's come across really well. I think it's the build's gone really well. I think the coaster is actually quite good. I've ridden it away from you guys, you can see it obviously at the end, but I've ridden it there and I think it comes really nicely. But again, fascia wise, which is a real theme when we've come to this particular park, is to get the fascias right when we're not building behind it. And there's a lot of rides in this park where this has happened, where we've built a fascia and you've not had to worry about what's behind it from the guest purpose, from the point of view, because of the way the paths flow. And this one is very much the same. You see the front, it'll be great. Once you're on it, you get a little bit of a little bit of scenery as you go, but they won't be walking down the side, so they won't have to see it all. That said, we need to build the fascia, and also we want to get a couple of rides in this western area because we have now built the fairy tale area, which is next door, and we have also got the entrance area and the path leading up, so we know exactly how much space is going to be available for this particular area now. So we may try and fit a junior roller coaster in here, because we do have quite a lot bigger roller coasters actually. We don't really have any family ones. I say don't really. We don't have any family coasters at all. So we do want to fit a we want to fit probably a little junior coaster, maybe a little spinning coaster in, and of course a more family ride as well in terms of flat ride. We've got quite a lot of training to do around here, which we're going to do now. As I said, we are going to build some focal points as you go around the ride. That said, the terrain tool is absolutely amazing in Planet Coaster. Compared to Roller Coaster Tycoon, which was a real pain. The terrain tool is brilliant, and it certainly doesn't take too much of the frame rate up either. So you can make it look good. You can colour the sides. We'll add a bit of rock in, obviously, make sure it's all coloured correctly, and yeah, it will really add to sort of the scene. As we said, theming big coasters like this, particularly over a massive area, is really difficult to do if you want to do it in depth. And we don't really have the frame rate to do so either. And we want to finish off the park. We want to get it open now, I think, so guests can come in and experience some of the attractions we've done. So we'll get the training done first. As we said, we've got a lot of brick colouring to do. It is going to be like you've dropped into a canyon. And we're going to continue to use that theme around here. Now, oddly enough as well, we are in sandbox mode, as I'm sure you've probably realised, because we're not worrying about money and things, and we do like to build in sandbox mode because of that reason. Now, when you start sandbox mode, you do get a choice of the terrains that you want. So you really have got to have an idea of exactly what you want to be building within reason. Because the issue is, once you've selected your 8 terrains, that's it. You can't go back and change them, you can't alter them, you can't swap them out. I'm not really sure, to be honest, why you can't have all the terrains available even in sandbox mode. I'm sure there's a memory or some kind of issue with it, but I do find it really peculiar. You've got to plan a little bit ahead. In this one I thought, well, if I want a western theme, I've got to have some kind of rock, I've got to have some kind of sand as well. And at that expense, I've not been able to put in kind of ice or snow or something like that, tropical so much. So yeah, you've got to have a rough idea of what you want to do, and it limits you slightly. It really does limit you slightly, and it's something I don't really understand as to why we are going down that route with such a high graphical game, why we can't have all the terrains available. Even if it's a swap out purpose, I'm sure there's a way of doing it. I'm sure there must be a way of getting it done. Now then, if you just noticed there, we've just built a waterfall. We're not actually going to use the waterfall available in the game because it is quite smooth. We want a sort of rough water, going down the front of the rock work there. And then the building we put on top here is actually quite close to the start of the ride. As you can see, it's just after a block break area there. And this will be the bit you come to before diving into the canyon itself. So yeah, quite close to the front of the ride. We'll have a little waterfall, and then of course they'll interact with that later on in the ride. Now, as you can see here, we have enclosed, we have brought the terrain up. So we're going to put some sand in. This is all going to be sanded out. This is all going to be rocked and sand, no grass at all. We'll get into all the nooks and crannies in getting that done. And we will add a few trees and a little bit of sort of greenery around. There wouldn't be much, to be honest, in this particular environment. And as we said, we want to keep it fairly simple because it's quite a big ride. And this theme, I think the canyon theme, when you're really going for big rides, works really, really well, because arguably it doesn't need as much attending to as some of the other areas. The rock work is really, really good. It looks good from afar, looks good when you're on the ride because of the way it paints on. And when you have the grass and things like that, it makes it very difficult to just have grass and a coaster and not have a lot of scenery around. So we are literally just going to dot a few bits of scenery around, nothing too major, and then enclose it and enclose these gaps as well. Obviously we get these gaps enclosed on the actual grass section, then it really does again separate the areas. So yeah, we're coming to the end now of this particular coaster. I'm quite pleased with the way it's come through, a little bit more decoration, and then we do need to move on to building a smallish ride here for our kind of sort of family guests, because we do have actually quite a lot of big coasters. I do like to build some family attractions. So we're going to have a little spinning coaster, nothing too major, nothing too big on the drops, something really quite small around this particular part, which will go up the side of the Ghostbusters ride, which again, we will indeed raise the terrain up, and we will make sure the rides are separated and make sure that they're, in their own area. But we don't want anything too big. We literally want it to come back down, go back over the path, and then a little bit of a helix back down to the actual area. So yeah, a real family roller coaster, nothing massive, nothing major, but I'm sure will be really, really popular with our guests. We also want to get a flat ride in here as well. Now, we are actually going to build along here, and we are going to put some theming along this part and have it kind of a western sort of village, if you will, when you walk in, rather than being able to see the whole coaster. We're going to enclose the station here, and we're going to have shops and things along there. So we're going to get that built now, and we'll come back to you very shortly. So the entrance building has actually come along quite nicely, to be honest with you, and we just have filled in the blanks there and connected the dots, and of course put a roof on it. Now this is like an all American sort of Western area that we've got going on here, and this is how we're going to kind of portray it in the theming as well. So you will walk into this from the entrance. You've just seen the kind of the long walk through. We're going to put some fountains down there and make it look a little bit prettier as you walk down. So effectively you'll walk straight on for the western area. You're going to turn right to go into the sort of Egyptian tomb area, and you'll turn left to go into the devastation area with our inverted coaster. And then once you're in either of the latter two areas, well, the western area or the inverted area, you'll be able to go and sneak into the Enchanted Forest, which is home to our launch coaster. So yeah, it's coming across quite nicely. As I said, we want to build the terrain around here as well. You know, we'll add a little bit of scenery in, but you know, as a desert sort of Western theme, it's going to be quite open. We want it quite open. We don't want to use too much scenery, but we do want to pop in a flat ride. Now we don't have many flat rides, so we are going to go for something sort of mid-range in an Enterprise, so not too thrilling, not overly sort of like aimed at the thrill seekers, but it will definitely bring the family in, as well as you know, kind of the big gyro swing which we have. And we're also going to pop a little balloon ride down here as well, which is going to be exclusively more for the little ones. So squeezing two rides in here. We'll keep it quite compact because again, where we're not going to have a lot of scenery, we do want to make sure there is plenty for our peeps to do when they come in here before they head off into other areas. Now we do, as we said, want to enclose this. We want to make sure that we've kind of themed the queue lines as well. It obviously helps with the ride ratings, it helps with the queue ratings, and of course it will help with the guest experience. The coaster is nicely enclosed. It's not on flat landing particularly, but certainly from the outside it's nicely enclosed. We put a little bit of scenery on the inside, and then of course the building stretches all the way down the side of the kind of western when you enter. So we have got a little bit of scenery to pop in just along here. We've also got some over the other side, and then yeah, I think we're quite happy with this area. It is a little bit minimalistic, but you know, without building big buildings constantly, it's going to be a little bit minimalistic because, you know, desert western, you've got your kind of, you know, your shops and things as you expect to walk into your salon, and then, you know, there's not a lot else going on. We're going to have a big train walking through. We'll put some rocks and green area around the Enterprise as well. But yeah, I think this area has come along really nicely. Now there are quite a few finishing touches to do around the park, which we're going to do probably more off camera. That includes bins, that includes shops. We need to hire some staff, we need to get all the rides tested. We've got this little entrance area here which we are also going to do very shortly. I think we're going to have this kind of sunk down either side, and we will put a little water fountains in there. And of course we need to finish this front area as well from when you walk in to the Big Adventure, because that's what we're calling it. This is the Big Adventure. This is our biggest recorded one to date, and yeah, you know, I think actually it's come across really well. It'll be really interesting to see once the guests are in how they find it, where they head to, and kind of what ratings they give our rides. Now we have a lot to finish here, but when we come back in the next episode, we will be opening the park. Not only will we be opening the park, we will be taking you on some of the rides and attractions. So leave your comments below. What do you think of the Planet Coaster so far? How do you think the areas have turned out? Which do you think is going to be the most popular ride once we open the park? Really interested to hear your thoughts. Leave them below. As we said, we'll be back in the next episode. That will be the final episode in which we're going to take you on some of the rides, see the park in motion. See you next time.